Welcome to Whispers, Secrets, and Wounds. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe to the channel. Like this video, it really helps the channel grow. Share it with someone who might enjoy it too. Comment your location. We'd love to know where you're watching from. Liam was sitting in the car, taking deep breaths as he stared at the steering wheel. His mind was racing with the final preparations for that night. For weeks, he had noticed a growing distance between him and Sophia, as if an invisible shadow was hovering over their relationship. But he wasn't going to let their marriage, built with so much love and dedication, fall apart like this. Tonight, he had a card up his sleeve, a special night prepared with every detail thought out to rekindle what was once spontaneous and vibrant. As he got out of the car and opened the door to the house, Liam felt a mix of anxiety and hope. The scent of freshly bought flowers filled the air, and he hurried to place them in an elegant vase that Sophia adored. He knew she loved these small gestures, and he held on to the hope that there was still a spark to be reignited. In the kitchen, the sound of wine pouring into the glass sounded almost like a preemptive celebration. He opened the bottle carefully, smelling the fruity aroma that promised to pair perfectly with the quality steaks he had prepared earlier. As he set the table, adjusting each detail, the aromatic candles, the silverware gleaming in the dim light of the lamp, and the delicacy of the rose petals scattered, his mind drifted to the past. He remembered the simple yet unforgettable nights they had spent together, laughing at trivial things and sharing dreams. Now, the house seemed different, cold and distant, as if those memories had been erased by an unrelenting and exhausting routine. Liam then paused, admiring the scene he had set up. Soft music filled the room, creating an almost magical atmosphere. He imagined Sophia's surprised expression as she walked through the door and saw it all. She would embrace him, moved, and they would sit together, talking openly about what had changed, about how they could find each other again amidst the confusion that surrounded them. But for a moment, a shadow of doubt crept in. What if she didn't react as he hoped? What if, instead of gratitude, there was only indifference? Liam shook his head, pushing away those dark thoughts. No, he couldn't think like that. He had put in the effort, poured his heart into that moment, and believed that it was the right thing to do. He went to the bedroom, quickly changing into a shirt that Sophia had complimented many times before. The woody fragrance he wore on special occasions now filled the air, blending with the scent of candles and the aroma of food starting to waft through the house. Everything was perfect, just as he had planned. Liam took a deep breath, feeling his anxiety transform into a calm determination. With one last look at the carefully prepared setting, he sat at the table, waiting for the familiar sound of the door opening. His heart was pounding, but he was confident this night would be a turning point, the chance he needed to reignite the passion and re-establish the bond that he knew still existed between them. The clock on the wall seemed to taunt Liam, ticking each second with a precision that felt more like a provocation than a simple marking of time. He got up from the chair for the third time, walking over to the window to peek out at the quiet street. The sun had already set, and the darkness of early evening enveloped the neighborhood, giving the atmosphere a sense of anticipation. Liam adjusted the sleeve of his shirt, trying to mask the restlessness he felt. The smell of the steaks was beginning to fill the room, mingling with the subtle aroma of the lit candles. Finally, he heard the long-awaited sound, the lock turning and the front door slowly opening. His heart leapt with anticipation. "It's going to work," he whispered to himself. But when the door opened fully, he froze. Sophia entered, but she wasn't alone. A tall man with a confident expression and an easy smile accompanied her. They were talking animatedly, oblivious to Liam's presence in the room. Every word exchanged between them felt like a punch that hit Liam squarely. He took a step back, as if physically struck, trying to understand what was happening. Sophia only noticed Liam was there when she saw the table set so lovingly. The surprise on her face was evident, but not in the way he expected. Liam watched as her discomfort turned to embarrassment and finally into a forced attempt at a smile. "Liam," she began, her voice slightly trembling, I didn't expect you to be home so early." The man beside her stepped forward and extended his hand, a gesture that seemed out of place in such a strange context. "Pleasure to meet you. I'm Daniel, director of the construction company where Sophia works." Liam looked at the extended hand, not knowing how to react. His mind was still trying to process the presence of this man there, in the room he had turned into a romantic setting for him and his wife. But something in Daniel's tone, his relaxed posture, and the furtive glances he exchanged with Sophia made Liam understand what was happening before anyone said a word. Daniel's friendly smile felt like a provocation, and Sophia's expression only confirmed his worst fears. The discomfort in the air was palpable, and the silence that followed was heavy, like a storm cloud about to burst. "So Liam, Daniel and I were going to..." Sophia hesitated, the words dying in her mouth. She looked at the set table, the candles, the wine, the carefully prepared steaks, and her expression wavered between guilt and surprise. "I had no idea you were planning something special." Liam felt a knot tighten in his throat. He wanted to ask so many things, wanted to scream, cry, demand an explanation, but at the same time everything seemed so clear, so painfully obvious. In a pure impulse, he walked over to the table and, with a firm gesture, extinguished one of the candles. The smell of wax and burnt wick mixed with the already heavy atmosphere. "What were you going to do, Sophia?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady but feeling the words tremble on his lips. Sophia looked at Daniel, who seemed uncertain for the first time since he had entered the house. He opened his mouth to speak, but Liam cut him off, raising his hand. "No, I want to hear it from her." Sophia took a deep breath, as if trying to gather courage. "We were going to spend the weekend together, out of town." Liam felt the ground open up beneath his feet. He looked at her, waiting for some explanation that would make it all make sense, something that would justify what she was doing. But there was no justification, just an awkward silence and the feeling that it was all a nightmare he couldn't wake up from. "So that's it?" he asked, his voice low, almost a whisper. "You were going to leave home with him, without telling me anything, without even caring?" Sophia averted her gaze, and Daniel, sensing the gravity of the situation, tried to intervene again. "Liam, I think." "You don't think anything," Liam exploded, his voice echoing through the room. "I can't believe you had the audacity to come into my house, to stand here, to look at everything I prepared, and still try to say something." He pointed to the door, his gaze fixed on Daniel. "I want you to leave." Daniel hesitated, but one look from Sophia was enough to make him understand it was best to comply. He took a step back, looked at Sophia, and then left, closing the door softly behind him. The silence that followed was unbearable. Liam looked at Sophia, his eyes full of hurt and pain. "How could you do this to me, Sophia? To us?" But she had no answers. And at that moment, Liam knew that nothing she could say would mend what had been broken inside him. Liam stood in the middle of the room, the muffled sound of the door closing echoing in his mind like an abrupt period. He looked at Sophia, but now the eyes that once sought love and understanding found only a stranger. His breathing was labored, and he felt his heart pounding in his ears. The silence between them seemed to scream, filled with everything that hadn't been said over the past months. "Why?" The word escaped his mouth, laden with all the pain he felt. "Why did you do this to me?" Sophia seemed to struggle to find an answer, but her lips trembled in silence. She had never seen Liam so vulnerable, and her expression alternated between guilt and discomfort. But there was no excuse she could give, no words that could erase what he had just witnessed. The weight of her choices now hung between them like an invisible wall. "You know how hard I tried, Sophia. I prepared all of this." Liam pointed to the still-set table, the candles now just a trail of smoke in the air. "I wanted us to be able to talk, to resolve whatever was wrong. But it seems you already made your decision." She took a step towards him, extending her hand, but Liam recoiled as if the mere touch of her was unbearable. "Liam, I don't know what to say. We got lost. I didn't know how to tell you." How to tell me that you cheated on me? Liam interrupted, his voice louder than he intended. That you brought another man into our house, into the place where we built our life together. That you chose him, a stranger, over us. Sophia lowered her head, tears rolling down her face. But Liam couldn't feel compassion. He wanted to, but he couldn't. All the love, all the tenderness he felt, seemed to have been drained, leaving a painful void in its place. I never wanted this to happen, Sophia whispered, her voice broken. I swear, Liam. But everything started to change, and I felt like you weren't there anymore. Like we had drifted apart so much that I wasn't there anymore. Liam laughed, a bitter, incredulous sound. I've always been here, Sophia. Every day. Maybe I was tired, worried about work, but I never stopped being present for us. And you just gave up. Those words hurt more than he expected. Liam had never imagined himself saying that, never thought he would find himself in this position. And seeing Sophia so helpless, so lost, made part of him want to hug her and say everything would be okay. But he knew nothing would be okay. Not after all this. Sophia wiped her face with the back of her hand, trying to gather the strength to speak. I know I disappointed you, but I was confused. I felt so alone, and Daniel came along and made me feel alive again, made me feel like I still had some worth. Worth? Liam asked incredulously. You think that gives you the right to destroy what we built? To destroy me? 'Cause that's what you did, Sophia. You broke me. And I don't know how to fix this. Sophia took another step forward, the distance between them seeming immense, but she tried. I'm so sorry, Liam. I never wanted you to find out this way. I wanted to talk, to try to explain. Explain what? He interrupted her, his voice coming out louder, more desperate. That you're in love with him. That you want to throw everything away for someone you barely know. I need to understand, Sophia, because none of this makes sense to me. She remained silent, the words stuck in her throat. There was so much she wanted to say, but at the same time, nothing that could justify what she had done. She knew she had made a terrible mistake, but she also knew that even without Daniel, something inside her had already broken a long time ago. Liam, I still love you. I know it doesn't seem true now, but I do. And maybe I did everything wrong, but I wanted you to know that. He looked at her for a long moment, trying to find some trace of the woman he had fallen in love with, the partner he thought he knew so well. But all he saw was a stranger, someone who had destroyed their world without even realizing it. No, Sophia. This isn't love. Love is respect. It's loyalty. It's fighting for what matters. And you gave up on all of that. I don't know what's going to happen now, but I know I can't continue with you. The weight of his words seemed to crush the room around them. Liam turned away, going to the kitchen, needing a moment to breathe, to organize his thoughts. He grabbed the sink, trying to support himself, feeling the world spin. Everything he had planned for that night had crumbled into a painful reality, and he had no idea how to move forward from there. Liam didn't know how long he stood there, leaning against the kitchen sink, trying to catch his breath and control the whirlwind of thoughts that assailed him. Every memory with Sophia felt like a knife that drove deeper, and he felt as if his chest was about to explode. He looked at his trembling hands and realized he was still holding the napkin he had carefully folded hours earlier while planning the perfect night. The soft sound of Sophia's footsteps behind him brought him back to the present moment. He turned slowly, his gaze somber but resolute. She was standing in the middle of the kitchen, as if afraid to approach, to say something that might worsen the situation. But it was too late for caution. Liam, please. Listen to me. Sophia's voice was a broken whisper, as if she herself didn't believe what she was asking. She approached but kept a safe distance, respecting his space. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I don't want us to end like this, without at least trying to understand what happened. Liam let out a bitter laugh, crossing his arms as he looked at her. Understand? You want me to understand what, Sophia? That you preferred to spend a weekend with another man instead of trying to save our marriage? That you didn't have the courage to talk to me before making that decision." Sophia shook her head, tears streaming down her face once again. I felt lost, alone. And when Daniel appeared, I felt wanted again, like I still had something to offer, like I was still important." "Important?" Liam exclaimed incredulously. "You think you need another man to feel important? And what about me, Sophia? Did I never make you feel that? 'Cause to me you were always everything. Always." She sobbed, trying to control herself, but the pain on Liam's face was a mirror of the pain she felt. "You did, Liam. For a long time. But I started to lose myself. Everything began to feel like a burden, as if I was sinking and couldn't ask for help." Liam felt the anger subside a little, replaced by a deep sadness. He took a step back, leaning against the wall. "And you didn't think I deserved to know that? That maybe together we could find a way to save what we had? But no, you just gave up." Sophia looked at him, her face wet with tears, and for the first time that night, he saw something beyond guilt. He saw genuine remorse, a sorrow that consumed her from within. "I know I should have talked. I know I should have fought. But I was so tired, Liam. Tired of trying to be the perfect wife, the perfect woman. I felt suffocated. And then Daniel came along and you thought cheating was the solution." Liam interrupted, his voice trembling, filled with disbelief. "You thought that would make you feel better, get you out of the suffocation. Because, Sophia, you didn't just destroy our marriage. You destroyed our trust. And I don't know how we can fix this." Sophia took a step forward, as if trying to reach a version of him that could still love her, that could still see her beyond the unforgivable mistake she had made. "I'm willing to try, Liam. I know I messed up, but if you still have any love for me, I'm here, willing to do anything to prove to you that we can still be happy." Liam closed his eyes for a moment, trying to push away the pain that threatened to drown him. He always thought their love was strong enough to withstand anything, but now everything felt fragile, brittle. "I don't know, Sophia. I don't know if I can trust you again. Because it's not just about you cheating on me, it's the way you did it. How you came in here with him, into our home, without thinking about what that would mean." She moved closer, so close that he could feel her unsteady breathing. "I understand that you don't want to forgive me now, and maybe you never will. But I need you to know that I still love you, that I still believe we can find a way." Liam opened his eyes, looking directly at her, and for the first time, he saw reality with brutal clarity. He still loved her, of course he did, but that love was now tainted, shattered by a betrayal he never imagined he would experience. That love, though still alive, was incapable of erasing what had happened. "I loved you so much, Sophia," he said, his voice breaking at the end. "And part of me still loves you. But what you did, you broke something inside me that may never be fixed. And I don't know if I want to try." He saw her face contort with pain, but there was nothing more he could do to ease that. The damage was done, and now they were just the wreckage of what was once a happy marriage. The months that followed were an emotional roller coaster for Liam. He tried to rebuild himself one step at a time, but every corner of the house seemed to whisper memories he struggled to forget. The void left by Sophia was like an open wound that now and then burned unexpectedly. Friends and family surrounded him, offering support, but deep down, Liam knew this was a path he would have to walk alone. He threw himself into work, trying to fill every minute of his day with some task, anything that would keep his mind off the painful memories. The nights, however, were harder. The silence of the house seemed to echo his loneliness, and Sophia's absence in the bed beside him was a constant reminder of what he had lost, or maybe what he had freed himself from. He still wasn't sure. It was on one of those nights, while he watched some random movie he barely paid attention to, that the doorbell rang. He wasn't expecting visitors, and upon opening the door, the shock was immediate. There was Sophia, thinner, with deep dark circles and a look of someone who had carried a burden greater than she could bear. "Liam, I know it's late. I know maybe I shouldn't even be here. But I need to talk to you," she said, her voice low, almost pleading. He hesitated for a moment. Every part of his being screamed to shut her out of his life once and for all. But something in her expression made him take a step back and open the door a bit wider. "Come in," he said, his voice almost emotionless. Sophia entered slowly, as if every movement required immense effort. She looked around, recognizing every detail of the house that was once her home. Everything seemed the same, yet completely different at the same time. The silence between them was heavy, and Liam watched her, waiting for her to explain the reason for this unexpected visit. "I wanted," Sophia began, her voice faltering. She took a deep breath and tried again. "I wanted to apologize, truly. Not for my words, but for my actions, for everything I put you through." Liam remained silent, his arms crossed, just listening. "I've thought a lot about everything that happened, and I know I hurt you more than I ever imagined I could. I ruined our marriage, hurt you in a way that I may never be able to repair." She looked at him, her eyes pleading for something she didn't even know what it was. "I tried to move on, tried to convince myself that what I did made some sense. But all I felt was an even greater emptiness. Daniel, we're not together anymore. I realized that what I was looking for wasn't him. It was something I lost inside myself." Liam felt a pang of sadness and empathy, but he remained firm. "And what do you want from me, Sophia? To forgive you? To pretend nothing happened?" She shook her head quickly. "No. I know I don't have the right to ask that of you. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. I understand what I lost. And I understand that moving on is the best thing for you." "Then why are you here?" he asked, his voice laden with deep exhaustion. "Why now?" Sophia hesitated before answering, as if choosing each word carefully. "Because I needed to see you. I needed to look into your eyes and admit that I was wrong. Admit that the problem wasn't you. Never was. And I hope that one day you find someone who loves and values you as you deserve." Liam watched her for a long moment. He no longer felt anger. There was only a sense of sadness, of bitter acceptance. Maybe part of him still wished things had been different, but he knew that love had turned into something he could no longer sustain. "I hope you find peace too, Sophia. I really do," he said, his voice soft but firm. "But I can't give you that anymore. I need to move on. I need to find myself again." Sophia nodded, silent tears streaming down her face. "I understand, Liam. And I'm sorry. For everything." He just nodded without more words. And for the second time he saw her leave through that door, knowing that this time it was forever. When the door closed, Liam felt a strange sense of relief, as if finally a cycle had ended. Now he could really start over, in a way he had never imagined. It wouldn't be easy. He knew that. But for the first time in a long time, he felt he could face the future with hope. Thank you for being a part of this story with me. If it moved you, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to Whispers, Secrets and Wounds Stories. We noticed many of you who enjoy these stories aren't subscribed yet. By subscribing, you're not just following a channel. You're becoming part of a community that values deep, meaningful storytelling. Let's continue exploring these heartfelt journeys together. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you won't miss our next story.